Ladies and gentlemen, this is William Tincup, and you are listening and watching the inaugural William Tincup experience. And I have Jer on today. And this is going to be the first of these, and we're going to see how it goes. I can't wait because this was actually Jer's idea because we were going back and forth on podcast ideas. And he threw out like three different ideas. I'm like, I want to do all those because they were so different. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. Like, let's do them all. He's like, well, why don't we just want to do one show? And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we're here
Yeah,
now. Jeremy, would you do us a favor and introduce yourself to the audience that doesn't know you?
yeah, for sure. So I'm Jeremy Langhans. I go by Jer to my friends and family and coworkers. I'm the founder of Paired Sourcing. I've also had the pleasure of being involved with four different startups, which have been all acquired. So I've had four startup exits. Previous to that, I was the global employment brand leader at both Starbucks and Expedia. Um, and I'm sure
Small companies
yeah,
in Seattle. Yeah, tiny companies that maybe
hence the
you've not heard
fleece.
of. Yeah.
My wife was like, "What are you going to wear for Tincup show?" I'm like, "I didn't think about it." She's like, "Okay, I've got three fleeces to choose from." I was like, "Okay, thanks, babe."
I've got a Cafe Du Monde shirt on.
There you
So
go.
yeah. Well, let's do this. What is right now the burning question or the burning thing on your mind right now? Like what do you, because you talk to so many people all across the spectrum in terms of, hiring and
Mhm,
even into HR.
mhm.
What's just top of mind for you right now?
I mean, before this, I had a call early this morning. There's an international call about kind of product and technology and in the HR and talent space, and that is an age-old problem that hasn't been solved, and we can unpack that later. And then the more pressing thing was the call in between. So as I'm driving to the office building here, which is my hot pro tip number one of this podcast, if you're married with three kids like I am, find a place where you can go that they don't know where it's at.
Yeah, get out.
Yeah, it's really good for productivity. But anyways, as I was driving here, I caught up with one of my founder friends because excuse me, they just raised 20 million. And I'm like, hey, thanks for the Slack. He was like slacked for me to call him. So I called him right away. And I was like, congrats on the news. I'm so excited for you guys. And he said, we're gonna drop ATS-A and we need your help on picking B. What do you got? And I was like, holy shit, like they're leaving their ATS. That's a big breakup. Like they just raised
Yeah,
their first big amount of money, and they're like, the first thing we're doing is firing. I can't say the name, but we're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
fire this ATS. And I'm like, that's
Well,
literally they announced yesterday, and then the first call is with me at 9 a.m. to say we're firing our ATS, bro.
well, so much of what's interesting about firing an ATS and an ATS unsatisfaction, if you will, is some of it's the technology is oversold. So some of it is salespeople come in and promise a bunch of things, and the technology can't deliver on those things.
Yeah.
Some of it is the satisfaction is dissatisfaction is that they just don't outgrow it. They simply just it was great at a stage,
Hmm.
not great at the next stage. Okay. Another reason for dissatisfaction is the they don't understand how to use it. So it's a
Hmm.
training issue. Like it has the features, it has the integrations, it has a marketplace, it has the stuff. They just don't know how to use it, and they don't have to because the job's hard enough. They
Hmm.
don't have time to learn.
Yeah.
So it's either not intuitive or they weren't taught, etc. And
Hmm.
I find it fascinating because sometimes when you move from one ATS to the next, it's like people that have been married or and divorced and married and divorced. Like the third time that you get married, the divorce rate is so exponentially high because at least the research shows you've brought the baggage of two previous marriages and divorces into the third one,
Yeah. The baggage of data in this scenario.
in the baggage of data. And so without we're not naming names on any of this stuff, but it's like, what do you think, if it's not one of those scenarios, what do you think the dissatisfaction is? Like Well, I mean,
Yeah. I
obviously
mean,
it's important because it's the first call.
yeah, I mean, it
So,
was his
check.
first call. I didn't
Yeah,
have it on my list.
right,
So,
right.
I don't, are we swearing on this pod?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I don't know what the fuck he was smoking because
Right.
like, why is that your thing? And
Why is this the first thing? Like,
yeah,
really?
I mean, he's also a West Coaster. So shout out West Coast. And I was like, hey man, congrats on your launch. And he's like, that was a 12-hour day. We already did that. Next order of business. The reason you're on the phone. And so maybe because I'm the talent like
Yeah,
guy for
yeah,
him.
yeah.
So I get that. But no, I think he's a unique because as a hiring manager, regardless of your title or rank,
Right.
as a hiring manager, if I buy an ATS, I buy it because it's going to make hires. And
That's
these
interesting
ATSs, yeah. I
because
mean,
the
I have
word
a pain.
tracking is in the acronym ATS.
Well, let's start with we have long form days. So let's start with the fact that A is applicant. So how the fuck do I get applicants?
So where do they come from?
Right?
Mystically. Oh, it's
Like you're gonna
fluid.
sell me a piece of software
Yep.
that my other buddy bought,
Yep.
and I'm like, great, I need to make hires. I'm gonna buy L, or I'm gonna buy W, or I'm
It
gonna
doesn't help you.
buy
It doesn't help you make
G.
hires
It doesn't do anything.
at
It's just
all.
a piece of software that you did a capital investment for. Now someone's gonna ask you about it.
Yep.
You've got hopefully users that you're gonna make use this thing. Like, hey, by the way,
Force
now
at
you have to use
gunpoint.
this thing.
Yep.
Well, what about the spreadsheet? Oh yeah, you still have to use the spreadsheet, but you have to use this thing now. And you got to put some A's in it, some applicants. We don't have those.
What are our applicants?
And
Does
then
any,
we're going to track them. So now you have to report to me from this thing.
it's the little Apple thing that you put on
Yeah.
keychains. Yes,
And
we're gonna track them.
the worst word to answer your original question of like, why is there dissatisfaction? I bought an ATS to make hires. We already spoke to applicants is impossible, sourcing and posting. Tracking is ridiculous, KPI metrics. Now you're going to do system? Oh wait, so this is so my IT guy is like, oh shit, now I got a system,
I
I
got
got
a
to
thing.
integrate.
I got a privacy and security, and I've got
Does it connect to my Gmail? Oh my gosh, like you just gave me like an implementation project.
Yep. Yep. They
So
dropped it off at their desk. The one thing I would say in defense of the category of ATSs, not any one particular, is compliance data.
yeah, it's a legal and yeah, it's
That
HR legal finance tool.
that's it. That's it. That's the defense. If you're
It's not a recruiting
doing,
tool.
no, not at all. If especially if it's not helping you with recruitment marketing, if it's not helping you with employer brand, if it's not bringing people candidates, we'll just go ahead and
A's.
scratch the A and make that what it is. They're candidates. Whether or not they're passive or active, we can argue about that later. But you're putting candidates into something that you can then a workflow that makes sense
Right.
to everyone that's in it, which means it makes sense to sourcers, recruiters, and hiring managers.
Right. Well, I mean, you think about the team, right? And as I was thinking about the cast of characters that is put together to use tooling, right? Whether that be a street sweeper at Disneyland, right? Here we go.
Yeah.
But like the perspective from me as a sourcer, and I, shout out to Paired Sourcing's made me millions of dollars, and I'm very grateful for that. But me as a sourcer, like, I learned from like early on, I'm going to be pretty old in a few days here. And I learned from early on, 2 decades in this business, like plus, we're never going to automate the street sweeper at Disneyland. Like we have the technology, right? We have like these little robots that'll sweep your floor.
Yes.
But that's not at Disneyland, hey, may the fourth be with you as well, their Tincup. But
shout out.
Yeah, I mean, like they could have Star Wars robots cleaning the streets, and maybe they do. But last time I was at Disneyland, there's still a street sweeper. It's a pivotal job. Pivotal means it cannot be replaced by the AI.
That's right.
And so if you're a sourcer doing a pivotal job, street sweeper, I'm cleaning up a spreadsheet for the next hour and a half. I'll get back to you, sourcer. Right? Like that's pivotal. No, and it's pivotal because nobody else wants to do it and the tools can't do it. And we can unpack that later too, but that's my hot take.
So how does a sourcer, maybe even a recruiter, decide what's pivotal and what's not pivotal?
Well, the sourcer can't decide. That's not their job.
Right.
It
shouldn't.
They,
Can't means they don't have the ability. Most of them
I
have
don't
the
think they
ability.
do have the ability either. Maybe they
Oh,
don't.
nice.
Yeah,
All right. All
I mean,
right.
maybe they don't have the capability unless they're a sorcerer and they run their own business. I think the
That's a good
only
point.
person that knows, if I'm a sorcerer at Microsoft, September 2003, I was called a sorcerer at Microsoft. That was my job title at Microsoft in September of 2003. I don't even think I have that on my resume, but I was a sorcerer at Microsoft. And what was pivotal is what the business unit leader, right? It didn't come from Bill Gates, but the business unit leader,
Right.
they prioritized this job needs sourcing. Therefore, it's a pivotal job. If
Right.
we don't fill it, we not only have the opportunity cost of not making more money, but we also could start losing money. Like
Right.
this is a pivotal job from a business, corporate making money perspective, not
And
from a sorcerer's perspective, because that's
right.
not, your
But
job.
if everything's pivotal, then nothing's pivotal. So
Yeah, we always limit them.
there's
Yeah,
got to be a discernment, right? There's got to
yeah,
be what used to be the difference between critical and important.
yeah.
Everything's important, but there are things that are critical. You're saying the same thing, but using the word pivotal. Okay, all right.
Mhm.
You've just given me 5 recs. Cool. They can't all be pivotal.
Yeah, pivotal is going to be pivotal is a drinking game too. Depending on what time people are listening or watching this, pivotal is your take a shot or a sip of coffee or a sip of water. That's your hydrate. If they could narrow it down 5, that'd be great. Let's pretend they can't. They just say, hey, I have 11 jobs open in my department.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, business leader, you have 11 jobs open. That's why I'm here. I'm a sorcerer. I'm not a recruiter. I'm assuming those jobs are already open. And what you don't have is the A and ATS. You don't have applicants. For the sake of today, Mr. Leader, Mrs. Leader, I'm going to help you with leads and prospects and profiles and some passive candidates, and I'm going to skirt and dance around the applicant. But if we could get you a hire, if we could help you find and hire ideal candidates for this hard to fill role or this set of roles, which one would you want filled first? And if you ask that question, immediately a hiring manager goes, oh, the most pain I have in this moment, the hottest topic for me, what woke me up at 4 a.m. is I need this QA manager.
That's right.
The QA manager is not the sexiest job.
Nope.
Nobody knew that's what the hiring manager wanted
That's
until
right.
I asked, right?
That's right. But you have to ask, instead of jumping into the 11 recs and going and treating them all the same in terms of importance, you're basically saying there's a red, yellow, green.
Yep.
Okay, let's find out what that is and which one's the most pivotal, and then we can just move down the ranks.
Yep. And
And
that's the pivot part of that, using that word.
right,
As we pivot, daily stand-up,
right,
weekly check-in, monthly one-on-one, as we make pivots, we keep the job with the highest chance of efficacy at the top.
right.
Because when I send a candidate to hiring manager and say, hey, Billy, meet Susie, here's the introduction, I want them to action that
That's right.
because they told me it's pivotal.
That's right. And if they and you also now have a way to then communicate with them if they don't action it. This has been an age-old problem of we get candidates over the hiring managers and they sit on them, right? So it's like this is like milk, they're leads, and they have an expiration date. And if they've told you it's pivotal and they don't treat it as pivotal,
Right.
then there's it's incongruent.
We might need to pivot again.
We might
Now,
need to pivot.
you have to be careful with that. And we've adopted at our practice a 2-week sprint model.
Okay.
So we kind of lock you in. So
Right.
we're not going to pivot every day because that's crazy town, and I don't live in crazy town.
I avoid crazy town.
Yeah, I avoid that place. But I do work for a lot of like really, really big name venture capitalists.
Right.
And when they send me a founder that just got $20 million and say solve their talent problem, I want to be able to do that. And so we've negotiated over almost 7 years. July will be 7 years of doing the sprint model to say, great. I know you have 11 positions. I know the QA manager is pivotal. Give me 2 weeks on QA. I'm gonna do some research. I'm gonna do some outreach. I'm gonna make some introductions.
Right.
Give me a couple weeks on that. So then when he comes back a week from now and says, can you pivot? I'd be like, we're only halfway through, maybe, and I can negotiate.
Right.
Or I can say, no, we're making headway. I need my second week. It's going to go by super fast. Don't worry. Let's knock this one out.
Yes.
And then queue up. What's the burning one now that woke you up? Okay, let's queue that up for Monday. That'll be the next sprint. And I'm going to finish this so you can get some results. And then we're going to pivot.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
agile way of doing sourcing.
Right. And
But it also
there,
keeps them at bay so that you can protect your time.
well, and you get less of the problems that we all have in terms of the candidates stacking up and not getting responses. And because candidates today, if you don't, they're thinking again in seconds, minutes, and hours. If you don't respond to them, they've moved on.
Yeah, and going back to Disneyland, same thing. Like you could have the best ride, and you could have really long lines, overpriced food that's mediocre.
Yeah.
And I'll deal with that if while I'm standing in line eating my churro, I'm looking out and it's like beautifully landscaped, the streets clean, shit like that. Then yeah, I'm chilling until I can get on the ride. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. I love it. So what was your recommendation in terms of the ATS, not the brand, but just the process in which to replace? And you know, we've made the decision to move off of one and move into another, or maybe they don't know the other, but or maybe they do, they've already identified. But what's your general recommendation? Because you get asked this stuff both about CRMs, ATS, employment branding technology, sourcing technology, like everything, and probably even into the HR technology stuff. So like, what's your typical kind of triage model of how to make recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, I can for sure send you. I have an actual decision tree that I wrote out for someone once, and I've just kind of built off that.
Right.
To my Google Docs. I can send that too. But let's see if I can remember from memory. So you know, the middle circle is I have pain, ATS mean, ATS no make hire, whatever. Right? It's just like that.
No applicants. Yeah.
It's probably a poop emoji, knowing my drawing skills, but that's the center. That's why Billy's on the phone. And I say, Billy, the very first thing to triage, like, tell me where it hurts. I say, Billy, why do you want to break up with him? Because that's, you know, a big decision.
That's right.
I'm not talking you out of it, but why do you want, Billy, why are we getting a divorce with Sally? You've said this before, Billy.
Right.
And Billy says, you know what? My contract's up in June and they didn't do something they said they were going to do. And I didn't get my ROI on my hires for the dollar amount I spent, and my team doesn't like them. Like,
yeah, that's a lot.
Awesome. Awesome.
That's at least cancer. 4 different reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. You have cancer. You broke your arm. You have allergies, and
yeah.
You know,
and you only need one of these things. I mean,
you only need one.
And the team, you know, again, the over promising that happens in sales and marketing, I think we all fall victim to that stuff. I remember going to HR Tech a couple of years ago, and it was 2019. And I literally went around and I counted how many booths said AI. And I thought to myself, none of these people actually have AI. None of them. There wasn't a single vendor in the hall.
They barely have some automation, and they don't have even a definition of ML.
That's right. And so I'm like, the misinformation and disinformation for practitioners to then weed through. It's not shocking that they wake up and they're dissatisfied with a product.
Yeah, a lot of it came actually not from a technical perspective. I don't know. You might know this because you advised a lot of characters in the space like I do. And it really came about when all the domain names were bought up. So then people started buying up .io and .ai, and like, are we AI enough? Or we have a vendor that's AI that makes us AI. So this could be our new website if we get some money so we can build the company.
Oh, it's worse. It's much worse than that.
I mean, I'm saying the genesis of it, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, that's what I started hearing was, I said, hey, well, why is your company, s.ai?
Yeah.
I mean, I just got an exit from one that's had AI in the web address.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking from personal experience.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, why is the website this? This was years ago. And they're like, oh, we couldn't get .com. I'm like, well, that's not the right answer. The answer should be that you've built a neural net. They're like, I don't know what the fucking neural net is.
I can't spell that. Sorry. Yeah. Could you spell that?
But tell me your side. We got all day. Tell me your side. I'll sit back.
So it's worse than that in the sense of that's definitely one of the spokes.
Mhm.
Another one of the spokes is navel gazing and looking at the competitors.
Mhm.
And so in a situation, again, we'll look at CRMs, and CRM A looks at CRM B's website, and CRM B's message changed
Still
to then
marketing problem.
include AI. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden now that becomes a battle cry. Well, we've got
Well,
to
and all the
change ours.
speakers seeing that battle cry at every virtual conference during COVID, so that didn't help.
100%, 100%. I mean, it's self-fulfilling. I mean, there are some AI products coming to market that actually do have AI.
Yeah.
So, but 3 years ago, that was not the case. And
Yep.
so it isn't shocking that practitioners are confused. But
Yep.
I think to your point of okay, taking people through this, okay, why are you unhappy? If you're thinking about breaking up, no, you're definitely, the decision's been made. Fantastic. What are the drivers that, so that we don't bring that into the next relationship?
Yeah.
If
My
it
first, my first advice was, did you tell him you're getting a divorce? Yes, I told him to cancel my contract. Good job, Billy.
yeah, yeah,
I
because
mean, it's back to high school. Like,
that's right. That's
does
right.
she know we're not going to the prom? Because I think she's over here
Well,
dress shopping.
it's a bit nebulous at this point.
Yeah.
I've kind of said yes. I was
You say
pressured.
cancel subscription and you get confirmation they heard you.
I was actually really high, and I think I asked her, but I don't
Hmm.
know. It's very confusing, very fuzzy. I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but I think when you went through those four things, any one of those things, like if you get down to the team not wanting to use it,
Yeah.
that happens all the time. Teams don't,
Sure.
especially change management. Teams don't want to try a new tool because they like the old tool. This is why Taleo and Brass Ring and some of these older systems are still around. PeopleSoft, their
Yep.
ATS, it's still around because people know how to use it, and it's the
Yep.
devil you know.
I'm
And
going to read something to you that I wrote someone.
okay,
You said devil and it just prompted this. So let me open my Instagram. Am I allowed to shout out my Instagram?
oh hell yeah,
It's just paired sourcing, all one word on Instagram.
nice.
But
I
I
had
have,
Instagram removed one of my posts this weekend. I thought that was
oh
fantastic.
my goodness.
It was a, it was someone I pulled up. Actually, I was taking my son to meet my wife at church, and I pulled up next to a car, and there was a bumper sticker that said, "Kill your local pedophile."
Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
And so I look over, and Van, my youngest, he looks over, and he's like, "What's a pedophile?"
Oh,
And
true.
I'm like, "Huh, well, I guess we're going to have this discussion. So
Yep.
this is going to happen right now on the way to church. All right.
It's
Well,
like that's the best time to talk about it because
it's
by the time you
exactly.
get to church, you can all just like not talk to each other.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and go through it. So I talked to him about it. He's like, "Oh, that's sick." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
all right. Well, you get the bit. All right, cool." So now the sticker makes sense. He's like, "Yeah, it makes totally makes sense." I'm like, "All right," but I put it on Instagram as like this was a teachable moment with my
Yeah.
son for us to have a kind of a difficult conversation. What would be historically a difficult conversation, and they took it down.
I'm surprised Meta didn't cancel you, but yeah, for
No,
sure.
they took it off Facebook too. So
Oh,
they
did
took it
they?
off
Okay.
Instagram, and Instagram took it off immediately. Well, not immediately, but very quick. And then Facebook, like 2 days later, I'm like,
Yeah.
"Aren't you all the same technology? Like in the same group, and running the same bit? Like, no
They
judgment,
probably had to go to a recruiting meeting in between.
no judgment."
Um, okay, so this is the recruiter user point of view. So I wrote this for something. Quote, finally, an ATS I actually want to use every day and I can't live without it. End quote. Like if we can get a recruiter user to have the point of view to say, finally, an ATS I actually want to use every day and I can't live without it. Like if we can get that quote, then we've won in terms of the product market fit.
Well, you've actually you've moved from an ATS, which we know is ill-titled, but you've moved from that to business critical software.
Yeah.
And so, like when QuickBooks first came out, people thought of it as accounting software. When
Right.
Salesforce came out, it was Salesforce automation or Salesforce software. In both those cases, they're business critical. You can't run your business without QuickBooks, a certain size.
True.
You can't run your business if you've got 100 salespeople. You can't run your business without Salesforce.com or
Yeah.
something like that.
Exactly.
And so I love that quote because it's exactly what every one of these solutions should look for. whether it's in sourcing and messaging, and ATS, et cetera, they should be looking at how do I get out of the category
Yeah.
and become business critical.
Well, that's literally the $1 million question.
Right.
So, a lot of
Multi-million.
really smart, a lot of really smart people with a lot of deep pockets are, I think now finally focusing on the HRTA space because they've solved first accounting and finance,
Yep.
secondly, sales and marketing, and now, decade number 3,
Yep.
it's our turn.
It's our turn.
So yeah,
It's
I'm excited.
It is, and it's interesting. Do you follow the funding like I do?
Yeah.
Are you amazed at the levels of funding that you're seeing in the space?
No, I think it's conservative. I mean, full disclosure too, I have decent positions in a lot of these things, and I just believe in investing. So I'm an investor, and also I would say my goal is to become an angel in the HR tech space at some point. So those caveats being said, I'm still very much an optimistic. So when I see, and I think I retweeted it, and one of the GPs liked my retweet. But when I see, a Hyperloop company getting, north of $500 million,
Yeah,
I'm like, well, fuck, it's going to take that at least that much just to hire and build the stuff.
that's right.
Like that's not profit, bro.
No.
Like that's my whole thing is like, someone gets 20 million even or 2 million and they're still frugal.
Oh,
And they
they have
have
to
to
be.
be. They
They have
have
to
to
be.
be. Yeah.
Well, what the kind of the myth is when you see something come out of Crunchbase and someone just got $70 million, the myth has been historically they have money. And
Sorry,
the
I
reality.
don't mean to laugh, but
No, it is laughable because the reality as I do is that money is already spent.
they have bills, not dollar bills. They have invoices.
That's 70 million because they raised, usually the last slide of the presentation is use of funds.
Yeah.
That
Make
money,
payroll. I gotta make payroll.
came in and went out. And oh, by the
Yeah.
way, now they're on the hamster wheel to then go raise the next raise.
Oh, I know.
So, but I've always
I think I
laughed
have
at.
hives from a conversation on that recently.
Well, it's funny because I just laugh at people that chase the funding, because the illusion of that they have money. I'm like, no, the more money they have, the poorer they are,
Yeah.
because they've already spent that money, and and probably misspent. They probably made a couple mistakes along the way.
Let's
So
talk
that's what,
about that.
yeah, they got 20 million and maybe they made a couple mistakes. Well,
Yeah.
not maybe, they inevitably will make a couple mistakes. They'll hire the wrong salesperson, and that's a year of kind of Don Quixote wandering around in the desert.
Right.
And they outsourced to a call center and had BDRs and built a demo center and did all this stuff, and it was a failed bit.
Yeah.
There went $1 million.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned that I follow it. I think I obsess over it. Am hyper focused on it because I've bootstrapped a services business,
Yep.
and already given a co-founder a large 6-figure paid exit, to buy up my equity and things. And I'm just like bursting at the seams to want to tell these people advice that I've learned along the way, but it's very hard to do that. And I've given advice to customers.
Right.
There was like a really big real estate co-working company valued at a lot of money, and they made a documentary of it recently. I had to take their logo off my website, but they were hiring 2 engineers per sprint, ongoing on a monthly subscription. And I would tell their top people all the time, and I was a customer of theirs in 2012. But I would tell this real estate office space type company all the time, I'm so happy you made 2 hires. Now what? Oh, we want to get another sprint. Right. I met with your recruiters. They told me that, but like, what are you going to do with those people? Because you're just hiring and hiring and hiring. And that's not the end goal. That's the first step, bro.
That's right.
And they thought like going back to kind of ATS and pivotal roles and stuff,
They
you
were
fill the
stock. They
job.
were stockpiling.
Yeah, because that's how they do the money part.
That's
I
right.
need to go make a raise. I got to go talk to Jamie. I got to go talk to Masa, whatever. Raise,
right.
raise, 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 raise. Once you get the money in the bank, you're done.
That's right.
So this same attitude, demeanor, effort, belief system is in play within talent, where they don't understand once you get the A and the ATS and you hit complete, close, offer extended, accepted, DocuSign, boom. Now you got a bigger problem.
Oh no, that the work
Now you got
begins.
humans.
Yes.
Now you got humans.
Well, and I think people not having a clarity, not just in what they're going to do, but like that first 90, 60, maybe 6 months or even a year of how they're going to keep those folks engaged and thrive.
Yeah.
And I think some of the pandemic has kind of unraveled some of this stuff, because before you could bring them into the office and wow them with, what, cotton candy, massages and catered lunches and all this
Right.
other stuff, right? Well, you can't do that when they're working in Wyoming or wherever.
Yeah.
And
Well, those
so,
people are getting fired, because for sure, 2 years from now, everyone in the spaces we're talking about is going to be on site.
oh no, that's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I know I've worked from home a long time, and now I'm on site, so it serves me well to be a contrarian. But
Why do you believe that?
Well, I mean, if you look at Fang, they're all saying it. So that's the big jobs. And then if you look at the small jobs, and I'm a very thin slice of the positions that are being put out to
Yeah, of
sourcing.
course.
But these are positions that are being put out to sourcing to some dude in a flannel in Washington State. So I'm like, why am I talking to you? Because you invented that thing that's on my desk. Like, this is so cool. Like, I'm always fanboying my own customer. But when it comes to we use Wufoo. Shout out to who was it that SurveyMonkey bought Wufoo?
That's right.
And our friend Leela took SurveyMonkey public. That's such
That's
a
right.
beautiful story.
That is.
But we've used Wufoo since Leela told me, hey, you should use Wufoo. So I'm like, cool. It's an intake form. On that intake form, there's only like 3 required things. One is location, and one is remote. Okay, yes, no. And it's totally binary. They have to do that, and they have to submit it. I don't care who's on the other end of the phone.
Right.
And I have a couple hundred of those just on this one survey that I make all my customers take.
Right.
And I'm watching the trend line, and I can't publish this data, but I can just tell you, in my opinion, it went from on-site 2019, 99% of the time, to remote because of COVID, obviously.
Yep.
But what's come out of that, people don't know what's come out of that is Fang. So Facebook, Apple, Netflix, and Google have all announced you have to come back.
Yep.
Google has invested more billions with a B into office space.
Yep.
My WeWork stock's actually doing pretty good. All my hiring managers are like, yeah, they're going to make us come back.
Yep.
That's word on the street.
Now let's bifurcate the HR recruiting. So TA and HR, let's put that in one category, and then let's put a different talent: data scientists, technical, software engineers, etc.
Yeah.
Do you see those being treated differently?
Yes, treated differently, but here's the pitch to your machine learning guy that lives in Wichita.
Yeah.
Okay, I've said Billy a lot. Let's call him Sage.
Janet. Yeah.
Janet. Ooh, let's make it Janet. That would be great. So Janet's in Wichita. She moved there coincidentally.
Janet sounds like a Wichita name. I've been to Wichita, by the way.
Yeah,
Wichita,
she moved back home.
For those that are listening and watching, Wichita doesn't have a taxi system. So when you get out of the airport, if they don't have an Uber or Lyft, there's nowhere to get, like literally to get to your hotel. There's no way to get there. There's no taxis in Wichita, Kansas.
By the way, Uber, so all these documentaries, we should spend 5 or 10 minutes on that coming up here, but all these documentaries like We Crashed, Dropout, Super Pumped, I've got insights on all of that, so we can get into that. But Janet from Wichita, she's the data scientist that actually knows what a neural net is, and she's really interested in your company. And coincidentally enough, she moved to Wichita, back home, 9 months ago, right? She went out to Berkeley, she got a degree, she worked at the hot startup. Now she moved back home, and T-Mobile said that she could be a data scientist from Wichita. Well, guess what? Here's the dirty little secret. She hates her life.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be there. She likes the cotton candy, the ping pong, the Magic the Gathering with the scotch thing after work, because when she goes home to her apartment, it's just Janet.
Or if she ever leaves her apartment,
So,
which is even worse.
So we can make exceptions, and there's edge cases, even to the extent of it growing from 2019 being 1 or 2% of the workforce to 10 or 20. And we can all talk about how it's 10x because of COVID, and now employers aren't micro, so they're letting people work from home. But there's always going to be Janet, and there's going to be 100 Janets for every one of those examples.
Right, right. So where do offer letters fail, non sequitur?
Offer letters fail because you didn't tell them there's an offer coming. It's like dating. And when I was closing I'm just a sourcer and entrepreneur now, but when I actually had to close an offer, actually I've done one recently for an advisor for a startup. Yeah. Here's your 2-step process. Tell the person that you're dating, that you're trying to take them home before you take them home.
So I did a bit. I did a bit at Craig's Talent Net in November last year, and it was on this very topic. It was on the universe of no's and offer letters. Universe of no's is basically sales objection response stuff. So you map out all the candidate no's, and then you basically map back, how do you get to the maybe, how do you get to the yes? So that's fun stuff, actually. If you've never done that.
Yeah, your little tickler file of rebuttals,
that's right.
Your battle cards, as they said at Amazon.
Exactly. You already know it's like, oh, it's too far of a commute. Okay, let me now let me fight that one.
Yeah.
But the second one was on offer letters, and my bit was, okay, so here's the error rate in offer letters. It's everything that you just said, but I went even more stark with it. I said, yeah. So offer letters, build the offer letter with the candidate. So open up Google Docs and go, let's build an offer letter.
Like actual pairing. That's interesting. You could do that with Notion.so, which is not an HR tech plug. It's just a tool I've been using.
So like let's just do this together. You said that this is important to you. Okay, let's put that in there. Yeah. Okay, this is what's important to the hiring manager. You agree? Yep. Okay, cool. And we build it together. We'll throw it through legal, make sure everything's cool.
Sure.
And then now, if I send you this document, will you sign it? Which is, to your point, there's no shock and awe. There's no surprise.
That's what they want to do
together.
Yeah, they want to do surprise and delight. They're like, oh, I'm going to make it for a little bit bigger and send it to them. Well, that's assuming you actually know it's about a bigger number somewhere.
That's right.
So your read could be like off.
Back to your prom example.
Yeah, like your read could be way off.
Again, who hasn't had this in their dating career? Who hasn't had this experience where they thought, surely they feel the same way?
I mean, if you really want to do, a virtual thing like that, and I would say in person's the best way to negotiate an offer for the candidate and the hiring manager.
Right.
And I say don't let your recruiters present offers. That's ridiculous.
Agreed.
And HR can suck it, because I've seen it happen where.
Anyways. Well, because a hiring
manager. I guess we do have time for that. I was going to say we don't have time for that, but
because a hiring manager is talking about the job, the team, what they're building, the momentum. They're talking about all these other things that won't get carried across by HR or by the recruiter. So
the recruiter will say you code in Java. It's like, well, what the fuck?
Thanks. Like that didn't help me. I actually made me dumber when you said that. But if the hiring manager is saying, okay, but what you're going to be doing in Java, working with this other team over here, is this, and you haven't done that yet. So this is a really great learning for you. They can sell it, which is the one of your underlying points. Is this is you have to sell the job.
Yes.
And
when
I think we suck at that. Sorry. No, of course not.
I think there's a little bit of lag, but I on that point, I want to talk about if you can make the offer in person.
Yep.
So that could look like, there's 3 examples of this: the hiring manager taking the candidate to dinner, money's already been discussed,
Hmm.
stocks have already been discussed,
Right.
benefits, all that crap.
Yeah.
But hey, we're going to dinner. We both think this is a yes, but let's go to dinner, or let's go to coffee, or let's go somewhere together, but not at the company. Like that's the most ideal way to do it, I think.
Yes. Yes.
And
And
you can't tell the hiring manager can't be like, that doesn't scale. I can't do that for my hires.
yeah,
Fuck
yeah,
you, bro.
yeah,
You made 3 hires last quarter. You
yeah.
can go to dinner 3 times.
Yes, you can do that. You can or should do that because it's a better experience for you and for them. And what I would say about that conversation, if all that other stuff, the tactical stuff, the important stuff has been negotiated, I think not just having a great bottle of wine or scotch or hamburger or whatever you're going to have, hamburger, steak or whatever you're going to have, it's then talking to like, what if this goes badly?
Mhm.
Like what could possibly go wrong here? Let's
Yeah,
talk about it. Like let's
yeah,
let's let's scare ourselves if we can. Now that we have agreed on all the hard stuff, the emotional stuff, let's try and scare ourselves.
yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah,
I think
Lanny Love did that with me. I'll tell you that story when you're done. Yeah.
really, oh no,
Hmm.
let's bring it.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I'm just here for any of the ADHD kids that are still paying attention to this podcast. Shout out to my tribe. As soon as Williams starts rambling, I'll just interject and go
Yeah,
like crazy town on him.
as you should, as you
Yeah,
should.
yeah, that's why I'm here. But no, for real. So Lanny Love, shout out to Lanny. So he hired me at Starbucks in the summer of 2009.
Okay.
Uh, I think I forget where he's at. I think he's at a hospital. I think he runs talent for a hospital, big hospital in Seattle. But anyway, shout out to Lanny Love if you're listening to this. But Lanny, um, I believe had sourced me. I think he sent me a DM on LinkedIn, says, "Hey, there's this job at Starbucks." And I had been already early in my career, just like a contractor, like just
Right.
bebopping around. I was on the first sourcing team at Yahoo in 2004. I already talked about working at Microsoft, all this stuff. So they're like, Starbucks wants you to come in and interview. It's going to be a hard interview loop because you're a contract hired gun type of guy. We don't know if you're an enterprise type of guy. I'm like, good fucking read. I'm
Yeah.
probably the worst thing you would need at Starbucks. Ended up staying there 3 years and doing some amazing things. We can get into that. But when Lanny took me out to coffee to say, hey, if we do this, we got to treat you. Oh, and by the way, I was relocating back to Seattle
Right.
and going from contract to FTE. They're like, we don't think you're an FTE. Plus, there's a reload. That's on you. We're going to treat you like a local candidate. I'm like, okay, I'm a local candidate, right?
Okay.
So, I was driving back and forth. I had to fly one time because I was late. Like, it was crazy, sleeping on my brother's floor for like 90 days. And he said, like, I don't know if you're going to be able to last. And I told myself, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to last either. So for 90 days, as far as you're concerned, I'm local, but I'm not going to move my young family at the time back to Seattle if this thing's not going to last more than 90 days. So it
Right.
was mutual before I signed the offer letter that like, hey, we're both taking a risk. If this works out, it's going to be amazing. And that's what happened. But if this does not work out, it was a 90-day contract, basically. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was cool. It worked out. And thanks to Lanny as the hiring manager, back to the original point, like Lanny is the hiring manager, knowing like we need to have this frank conversation. Now that we've gotten the hard stuff out of the way, let's just have this conversation. And then that just tees us up for our 30-day 60-day plan and our check-in. And that our goal is to make sure this is a fit, but also to act and behave and get results like we've already figured that out before day one.
Right.
Like we're in this boat together. And so we crushed it. But yeah.
What made you successful at Starbucks?
One day I got caught. Nobody. This is a rare story. This would be more over that scotch you're talking about. So next time I'm going to come down to Texas and we'll have to do it more Joe Rogan style.
Absolutely. We'll go. We'll go out to the lake house. That way we can have cigars, scotch.
Are you
So
going
do
to
the
be
whole
in? Are you going to be in Vegas next at the end of this month for the big HR Tech show?
No, I'm actually going to be at Greenhouse Open.
Okay.
It's at the same week, unfortunately. I
Okay.
love Unleash. It's a wonderful
Yeah.
conference.
I just got back from Vegas on Friday. I was there a week. I'll be at Unleash as well. So I'm
Good.
doing back-to-back
I have a,
Vegas.
I have a 72-hour rule for Vegas. On the 73rd hour, I'm renting a car.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm getting out of Vegas because I believe you turn into a vampire.
It's
If you're
true.
there on the 73rd hour, you've got to leave. You've
And I
got,
was there at the NFL draft, so there's lots of vampires. It was
oh yeah,
crazy.
no, yeah, yeah, those are different vampires,
What were
but
we
yes.
talking about?
So job descriptions. So I got in trouble in early 2020.
Oh, you asked why I was successful at Starbucks.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
write that down for later. Yeah.
Okay. So I did this bid at hiring success at success smart recruiters event
Mhm.
where it was on job descriptions. And so I'm standing in front of a whole room full of people. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's talk about job descriptions. Everybody loves job descriptions. Great. So hiring manager sends you an email with a job description. Okay, so what's the first thing you should do? Hands are raised. I'm like, yeah, none of that shit.
Yeah.
Delete the email. and
Like an
people are,
insurance company. Your job is to say no.
no, delete the email. And they're like, I'm like, open up a Google Doc, call them, or go and get in a room with them. At this point, you can actually go get in a room with them. Go get in a room and go, let's build this. Okay, like I don't want to scrape data off of Career Builder or Indeed or whatever. Just tell me what's like in real words, what's important, what's critical, what's pivotal,
Mhm.
etc. What are we really looking for here?
Yeah.
And we'll build it together. And again, back to your paired, you're
That's my
looking at,
woofu. Yeah.
yeah, that's how you're pairing.
Mhm.
But I did that with job descriptions. And of course, afterwards, people were like, that's revolutionary or that's really cool. I'm like, it's really not revolutionary or cool. It's
Yeah.
just stop taking people like garbage in, garbage out. The hiring
Yeah.
manager's doing what they think is best. They'll go scrape something that looks similar to what they
Yeah.
want or what
Or
they
we
think
used
they
this
want,
last time. Yep.
or worse. We used it last time, and that person had a mixture of skills,
Mhm.
and now we want the same mixture of skills, and so we've added those in. So it's gumbo. Great, fantastic. Now I got to find a unicorn that also knows Bigfoot. Great.
Yep.
So like delete all that shit because
Yep.
it's just garbage, and
Yep.
then start over.
Yeah.
What's been your experience with job descriptions?
Yeah. And I ate at Emerald's while I was there. So yeah, man, I'm into that.
Pow.
Yeah, it was so tasty. Okay, so job descriptions, I still work with those on a daily and weekly basis
Yes, you
here.
do.
I'd love to be able to say I don't, and Wufoo solved everything, but for whatever reason, if a hiring manager has written a job description, they send it to me. It's kind of like a D pick. If you slide into someone's DMs and you're not careful, you might get one of those. And it's the same exact thing for job descriptions.
Yep.
It's like, if they spent the time to actually think through it, or they co-authored and paired up with someone in their talent ops, and they built a rubric and they had all this work, they feel like they have to share it with you.
Right.
So guess what? Be empathetic as a sourcer or as a recruiter or as a person, and
Right.
just say, great, acknowledge it. Thank you. I appreciate your D pick. I will take it under advisement and file it where it goes in this round file. I stopped printing during COVID. I might actually get the printer out and print it and put it in the round file. And then we'll have a picture. We'll have like a webcam with a Twitch feed of like all the resumes and all the job descriptions, and we'll see which round file wins. We'll call that a dashboard. It'll be super cool.
I'll
Yeah, no,
shred that.
job descriptions are again going back to something you have to put in the ATS because you have no A's. So
That's
you
right.
might as well post a bunch of jobs so it looks like you're using the tool we paid for. And so we're going to go get a bunch of job descriptions and we're going to put them in here. It's because they don't know what else to do. They feel anxious and they need to make a hire, but they don't know what to do. So apparently the first thing they need to do is become a copywriter. And
Right.
I don't know who told them that, but it's been over 25 years that they've been doing it.
Yeah, and every
Needs to
single
stop.
person watching this and listening to this has scraped a job description from somewhere else. It's
Yeah, and
just
if you don't know what scrape is because you're a recruiter and not a sourcer, scrape is the word for copy paste.
control A, control V.
For you technical recruiters out there, it's control, and then, well, it depends. Like nowadays, those tech recruiters don't even have a keyboard,
No,
so I don't know what they're doing.
Actually, I have a friend of mine makes keyboards.
Yeah, my
bespoke.
son's into that.
He makes
Yeah.
bespoke keyboards for
Oh
people,
yeah.
and it's crazy the amounts
I've
of money
spent,
and
I've spent
personalization that
hundreds
people
of
have.
dollars on custom keycaps for Owen, so we don't need to get into mechanical keyboards. That's just going to give me
Uh,
some PTSD.
oh no. He brought him over last Friday. His family came over and he's like, "Let me show you a couple of things." I'm like, "You can have a soft key that clicks. You can have a soft
Uh-huh.
key that does this." I'm like, "Dude, seriously, I've got like a keyboard from like Office Depot. Like,
Yeah.
it turns out it works for me."
Yeah.
Let's get
No, I
back to
mean,
Starbucks real quick.
yeah, let's go back to Starbucks. So I wrote
What
down a
made
note.
what made you successful there?
So I started with I got caught, right? So for sure that happened. I think it was Lanny. So again, shout out to Lanny. Or might have been Kat Drum. She was our communications
She's
liaison.
fantastic.
Yeah. So I was the geek and Kat was the stage presence. And so that was who ran.
Nice.
Uh, it's crazy to think about it. Like I was such a young buck back then. I don't know why they gave me capital budget to do all the digital. Um, they gave me RSUs for my hashtag. We'll have to get into some of that. That was cool. But I had a seat. So if I'm looking at my camera here, I had a seat that faced this way. We were in these big workstations. We didn't have private offices. It was kind of open, but they were big workstations slash giant cubicles that had like wraparound desk. Phil sat next to me. Kat sat next to me. Lanny sat next to me. And I faced this way and I faced Lanny. So, and he was the boss. So anytime Lanny got up, I could minimize my screen.
Right.
Because I was playing around on Twitter all day in
Yeah, of course.
2009.
Yeah, of course. Who wasn't?
For sure. So I'm doing Twitter, and I started a Starbucks Twitter account, and we get into that. They gave me shares of the company. Howard loves me. Big fan.
It all worked out.
That all worked out. But I got caught because Lanny comes by and I'm on Twitter. So instead of minimizing, I hit the next tab. Well, the next tab over was a World of Warcraft forum, and I was reading up on Resto Shammy. Now, again, what Lanny doesn't know won't hurt him, but our CTO was our guild master. So it's kind of work related.
It is very much work. I can see the justification at this point.
I'm doing research on Twitter, probably best practices by Recruiting Daily or something. I'm reading my Twitter feed.
Everybody wins.
You know, and I only had one monitor because I'm working at a retailer. So my landscape was like this. And I think I had an iPhone 1 or whatever. So anyways, long story short, full screen is this Twitter account when he comes by and I tab over to World of Warcraft and I'm like, oh, that's not the right one.
No.
And I just spaz.
Yeah.
I'm within my 90-day like trial period.
Oh yeah.
I'm getting fired. I'm on World of Warcraft.
Let me just go ahead. Is there a box? Let me just.
I don't even know if I was fully set up. I was like, I could just take my box and just walk right back out.
I just put the photos back in. I'm good. No, security doesn't have to get involved. Here's my badge. I'm good.
Yeah, it was like, that's not Taleo. You're not reading resumes.
Reading.
Oh, shit, that's my job, reading resumes in Taleo that were written by amateur copywriters. Oh, that's my job. I didn't realize that.
Worse than amateur. Yeah.
He's like, what are you on? That's not like porn. He didn't say porn, but I think he was thinking like in a nice manager way. He's like, that's not inappropriate or not safe for work or whatever. I'm like, no, this is Twitter. Have you heard of it? It's a whole nother conversation. This is World of Warcraft. I probably shouldn't be on here, but Steven's on here too. Steven went from being the CTO at Starbucks to the COO of Semantic, and now he's an angel, and I love Steven. So our guild master was kind of like a whole nother thing. So close that. I'm like, yeah, I was in Taleo, but I needed a break.
Yeah.
And that's when and all jokes aside, that's when I had, I'm a religious person. And so I'm like, I feel like that was a divine moment where I go, oh, wait, there are a lot of other Janets out there that are on Twitter right now.
That's right. And they need a break too.
And their other tab is not Taleo.
That's right.
Their other tab is, I don't know, it's not World of Warcraft. We were all dudes over there, but like their other tab was something else. And I'm like, they're on a break too, a digital, like kind of this break. And I go, well, if my job's going to be reading resumes in Taleo, I'm going to have a mental break.
Yes.
So guess what? Timeout on that. Yes, I was on Twitter and I think we need to be doing that full time. And Lanny's manager of the year, he goes, okay, Jerry, how do we do that? Instead of, what are you doing dicking around over here? He said, how do you do that? How do we do that? You're right. And he wasn't a big social media guy at all.
No.
He's just like, you're right. And I was like, okay, here's how we have to do it. I have to do my regular job and make hires. So
Yes.
they'll leave me alone. I'm going to be
Yes.
so efficient and good at that. When I have free 15 minutes at the end of an hour, I'm going to be on Twitter. I'll record for you everything I'm doing and report to you on a weekly basis. Like, no joke. Like, I'm going to bullet. I did this. I did this. We'll build a playbook. It'll become social recruiting. Employment branding will be trending on Erie. Like, we'll do this. And he said, okay, do it. But just, you got to make your 4 or 5 hires a month. I'm like, dope. I can make 4 or 5 hires in a week.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And I just outperformed everybody, had my own free time, connected with my peers at Google and Microsoft and Warner Brothers, shout out Charney, whoever. And like, we started making this as a thing.
Did Carmen already have Tweet My Jobs at that point, or was that,
No.
did that come later?
Yeah.
That's too
I was
funny.
the first, so we had to make the Career Center responsive web.
Yes.
So I was the first Fortune 100 responsive website.
Right.
I did the whole Career Center. The hashtag was used a million times, including by Oprah and like anybody that would come by the office. I'm like, hey, can you tweet this?
Yeah.
Like big names, John Legend, whoever. You know, first verified Twitter account in the job space, right? I had the blue check mark before anybody was on Twitter. I made a hire in the first month. So, you know, making a hire on Twitter in 2009 was like,
Yeah.
that's where I started.
Yeah.
And then I ran that thing for 3 years. I got LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to come to our office because I had the big logo on my back. And I said,
Right.
build me this. I want this. I want promoted tweets. I want unlimited ad budget in Facebook. Oh, we have 20 million people in there now. Great. I need to target those for jobs. And it was huge. It was hundreds and hundreds of hires a year through social recruiting.
Why'd you leave?
Because another hiring manager closed me over dinner. His name being Tito Magabe. I don't know if you know that name, Tito Magabe.
Yeah, I know of him. Yeah, I think at Talent 42. Maybe I know. I've been in the same room, but I might have been in an Erie.
Yeah, Tito closed me because I was never going to leave Starbucks. I still volunteer. I just did a coffee tasting / career talk for the alumni group, and we had the old president in the room. We had the original coffee master in the room. Like, I'm still really like hip with those guys.
So are you a coffee snob? Can we
Sort
call
of.
you that?
I have my Ember cup. Do you know what Ember is?
Yes, I do.
So I have Ember.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are definitely a coffee snob. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about it. You have to be.
I had the black apron. I was the only guy in global staffing with the black apron, which you have to earn. It's like a
Oh,
black belt. Yeah.
oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's a big thing. So you got recruited out, and what did you do at your next stop? What was
So
the bit?
the way
Was
I
it-
got recruited out was huge too. The real quick version of that, even though we do have time, the quick version is Lanny left Starbucks and went to Expedia.
Yep.
I was already a customer of Expedia, and since I track all this stuff, I was tracking Barry Diller and Dara, like all these people, and I was like, I need a tech play to go with my retail play.
Right.
And they didn't have an employment brand for Expedia Inc.
Right.
So I built that from scratch, and that they knew that was the plan. So Lanny went there as a recruiting leader. Tito gets hired, I think, out of Google, where he's the sourcing leader, to come be the sourcing leader. He's a friend of mine, personal friend. I said, damn it, if Tito and Lanny didn't just go to frickin' Expedia.
I want to go there.
But I didn't tell anybody. I told like 2 people. Those 2 people told like a couple of people. And you know, I was at Starbucks nearly 3 years at this point, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is the longest job I've ever had.
Right.
And so anyways, so they get some of my friends over there. They start dangling like, you already did it here. This is a greenfield opportunity to build it here. We'll give you 3 times the budget. I'm like, I already have multi-million-dollar budget. They're like, I know. So this will require you to meet with our CFO, and then every once in a while, one-on-one with Dara, like quarterly for your CapEx. And I'm like,
wow.
Oh, I'm a sourcer that became an employment brand dude. And now you're saying I can have skip levels above my VP of HR and like meet with the CEO that runs Uber now?
Yes.
Fuck yes.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will do that. How long did you stay at Expedia?
2 years. And then I got fired. I said, well, I can't say that legally. So sorry, lawyers. I signed a little
thing that
golden parachute.
We will part ways as friends.
So there was an article, if you Google Forbes, Langhans, Barry Diller, you'll see an article from over 8 years ago. just talking. It has my slide deck in it and picture of a billionaire, and talks about some of the stuff, and I'm quoted all up in there, and that didn't make them happy.
Right. Right. And
So
fair enough.
I
You
mean,
know,
if you haven't been fired by a billionaire, like I use air quotes again, slide
yeah.
into the DMs, Zara, Barry, if you're listening.
You're not living. You haven't pushed hard enough.
It's
That's
like
why
if you didn't get a cease and desist when you were an agency recruiter, you weren't an agency recruiter.
I tell people all the time, if you're not an entrepreneur, you're not an entrepreneur until you get sued.
I got the job
Or
at Microsoft in 03 because Danielle Monahan had heard about me, cold called me, said, hey, office of the CTO needs a sourcer. By the way, you need to stop recruiting people out of Microsoft and placing them at Amazon. I said, I'm not a full-time employee of either of you guys, so
so
no, thank you.
appreciate you. I'm gonna
And then
do what
yeah.
I'm gonna do what's in the best interest of Jer. No,
And then
no
Danielle
offense.
was so perfect. She goes, I mean, gosh, the fact that I've known her for that's a long time.
20
So
years.
she goes, hey, what if you didn't have to hustle for job orders and you had unlimited amount of job orders? I said, I will fill them all, contract or not. This is before the Starbucks and Expedia stuff we're talking about. I was
Yeah.
like, I'll fill them all. She's like, no, Microsoft, you can't fill them all. There's too many. We open too many. People quit. You'll never. It's impossible. You can't have sourcing coverage for all of these jobs. You can't support 100 recruiters. It's impossible.
You just the challenge at that point, because
Yeah.
I remember when you went through a phase. I can't remember if it was marathons or triathlons, but you went through
Yep.
a phase where you were super active, because I was like,
Yeah.
damn, he's just collecting medal after medal after medal. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
envious
That's a
of
whole
that.
different person than you have here
No,
today.
no, 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 no judgment. That's not the point. The point is you're competitive. So when
Yeah.
someone throws down a challenge like that, you're like,
Yeah. I ended up doing 3 contracts because they would make you take a break in assignment.
right.
After a year, take 100 days off. So I did 3 assignments.
It's actually healthy. That's
Yeah,
smart.
it was really smart. It was for co-employment laws, but I
Right.
did that, and then
They eventually got in
yeah,
trouble because of some of that
yeah,
full-time status stuff. But
yep.
the idea of work hard, take some time off, replenish is actually a really good idea.
Yeah, I
They,
totally agree. And Starbucks has that now. I saw some friends on Facebook. Speaking of being a boomer, I'm on Facebook as an old guy, and like my friends from Starbucks are like, "Hey, I'm taking my 15-year coffee break. I think it's called coffee break. So after you're there 15 years, you can take 6 months off. You don't have to come to work. They turn off your email. Like you're completely like not an employee in terms of having responsibility, but
that's genius.
nothing changes in your pay, your benefits, nothing.
Right.
So you're
You
just
get
on a coffee break for 6 months.
that is, first of all, that's just genius, and it's a great way to retain talent and get replenish. And 15 years is a bit long. I think with our attention spans, we're probably going to see that number decrease to
Especially
probably,
in retail.
yeah, you're going to just need that to kind of come down. But
Yeah.
but the idea is a great idea.
Mhm, mhm.
So what frustrates you about employer brand right now? Like when you look out at the space, because you were early with EB and even recruitment marketing, you were very early stage.
Mhm. Yeah, I
So
mean, I've said it with a straight face. I feel like I invented social recruiting. I mean, there's a lot of co-inventors that
right,
were along for the journey, but
of course.
I really do feel like, and I also feel like I'm, you know, half a decade, actually more, almost, 3/4 of a decade past having to do anything in that world. And I know it's changed a lot, but I know there are certain things that haven't changed.
Hmm.
And I like to think so, you know, just a segue, when you look at a coffee stand becoming the biggest brand in the world, and they call their employees partners, and the learnings I had from that, and then how do you translate that into a uh, digital experience, which was
Right.
Expedia, because you can't call or visit
Yeah.
Expedia.
No.
And so and I can only speak of, tell stories about my own personal journey as fun as they can be sometimes. But when I started to think about, like, and I'm gonna get onto a tangent, we'll come back to your question, but when I started thinking about like a legendary experience, like what does that mean? And Marriott posted it. Our good friend Jessica is now a senior
Hmm.
vice president at Marriott, and I've been following her stuff for a while. And so she posted about this opportunity, and they're teaching around legendary experience. And for us, it was a couple of use cases. You hand someone You hand someone a cup with their
Hmm.
name on it,
Yep.
and you smile and you say, "Thanks, Jared. Enjoy your day."
Right.
Or you go to hotels.com and you have a materially different user experience than you did on that shitty old Expedia.com, not realizing they're the same company. And you're like, this is awesome. This is legendary. Like you tell your friends. Like for me, there's always been a thread, that's gone through on all of that. And that's like my guiding north. And like if it doesn't align with like a legendary experience, and regardless of whatever I'm doing, I'm out. I'm too old and rich to care.
And I don't, even if you weren't too old and too rich, I think it's the base of NPS that I love is, are you referenceable?
Yeah.
I don't like a lot of things in NPS, but that the kind of the base of at the end of the day,
Yeah.
the experience, the whatever the bit is, are you referenceable? That's a high bar.
Yeah.
And I think
And there's different levels of referenceable, right?
100%,
Like
100%.
find yourself in a room with Jerry Crispin in freaking Mountain View at the sort of end of COVID before it was like done. And you're like, how did I get here? Like, who did they call to check up on me? Like I shouldn't be in this room right now. That's when you know as a person that you're referenceable.
Yes. Yeah. I think the phrase that I love you say is, you'll tell your friends,
Yeah.
because there's an excitement that it's hard to capture. Like someone goes to a careers page, or they interact with, some of the social, or the brand itself. Like I interacted with a brand the other day, and it was like the old Woot
Hmm.
before Amazon bought them,
Hmm.
Woot.com. Their content was so great because they talked in such an irreverent manner
Hmm.
about the products.
Hmm.
Like, this camera will save your life. You just throw it in. If you're drowning, throw it in the water and it'll save your life. Like, it's just made fun of shit. Like and it was a funny bit. And it's like, if you can pull that off, I remember telling people, like, I'd read their content, because that model, if anyone doesn't remember it, it was one product a day.
Yeah.
So it'd pop up in the morning, and it was just, there's a limited amount of whatever it was. And every once in a while, there was just a box. It was a secret
Yeah.
box. You could
I'm
be
I'm
buying.
I'm more like, did someone tell you to bring up Woot.com? Because this is a small world.
No, no, it's just, I love their content. I love
Hmm.
I bought a couple things, but
Okay.
but really, I just love their content. Like, their content was so outrageously funny that
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm gonna literally, I went to Woot every single day just to read the content. I didn't
I
even
have to
give a
check
shit.
my buddy Isaac's Twitter feed real quick, because my buddy Isaac,
Was he a writer?
his last name's Wooten, and he worked for Amazon for a long time after that.
No way.
He's my buddy from California, actually from Bellevue, Washington. And then he moved down for a startup, and I moved over for Yahoo. But then I ended up living in Orange County, and not realizing Sunnyvale wasn't close.
Right.
Like, that's how big of a mistake I made. But it was awesome. Okay, I just pinged them. So, anyways, going back to like, a guest experience. So kind of riffing off guest experience, and whether that's in person, like at a hotel or
Right.
a coffee stand, or whether that's online at Marriott.com because you're purchasing an experience for leadership development at Ritz-Carlton, or whatever the use case is. When you engage with that, you have expectations as a person. And to even get someone to promote your brand or be an influencer for you, to get an applicant to tell their partner, like, I'm not going to work there because I don't like Java, but at the same time, like, that was the coolest experience ever. And then their partner applies, and their partner is Janet, the data scientist. You can't, first of all, you can't measure that accurately, number one. And you don't need to, number two, because eventually, and this is, I just, in my own life, eventually you'll stop having, if you're an independent recruiter out there, you'll stop having to do like spam people on email to get new business, like call email marketing or biz dev. You'll, at some point, you won't have to do biz dev, and you'll just have money. like, because you're a recruiter that people are attracted to, because you're referenceable and you have
That's
this
right.
great wealth of experience, and you can train, or you can do, or you can combine the two. And so, I mean, that's what I would say to like anybody that's out there. If you focus on legendary experience, make sure that chain reaction is always just a positive trickle, regardless of how big or where it goes. But every drop into your career ocean sends off positive vibes. Eventually it's going to be like this tidal wave of opportunity that comes back, and then just be humble about it, and have empathy when that happens.
I love that. All right. So my new woot is shiniest. I don't know if
Oh,
you
I don't know that one. Let me look.
okay. So I put it up on the screen.
Okay, let me make you big.
So
Work from home
shiniest.
bad habits. True.
So these folks literally built a report. They built a study out and all the things that are so grooming standards, working from the toilet, like it is literally the funniest thing I've read in a long time, because they
That's
go through
awesome.
this whole bit on this idea of work from home, and what it's also created in our culture
Yeah.
of all
Are
these
they
bad habits.
is shiniest are they competitor to what's it called? WeUndies?
Yeah,
Remember WeUndies?
yes, I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like look at their content,
Yeah, that's
like
great. That's perfect.
feels like wearing nothing at all, but
Yeah.
without the misdemeanor. Like
Yeah.
this reminds me of the Woot content, because it was
Yeah.
just funny. It's just funny shit. And
Do you
it's like,
remember? Oh, go ahead.
no, I love, I mean, first of all, they sent me this study and they're like, hey, well, you want to do a podcast on this? I'm like, yeah, I want to do a podcast on this, because first of all, I just love the content. The
Yeah.
idea that, because so much of it about work from home is the positive aspects,
Right.
or the complete the aspects of burnout, mental health, and all this other heavy
Right.
shit.
Right.
But no one's like making fun of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. I'll send you some Instagram memers that have been
Yeah.
for a while, that have some good content you might be able to steal, or give credit for. But like, it's so funny in my journey. I had years of working from home where we had to keep it a secret because it was so disruptive.
Right.
Like, hey, we're sending you a candidate interview plane ticket to Sunnyvale for tomorrow because we're having an all hands, and they don't know you're a contractor working from home.
Yep.
Like, well, fuck. Now I got to
And
go to John Wayne and get in a regional thing.
oh, I love that airport though. I have to admit,
You do?
I do. I do.
It
I'd
reminds me
rather
of Kona's airport. It's like
I'd rather fly
precarious.
I'd rather fly into that than LAX. Don't tell
Oh yeah,
anybody.
for sure. Oh yeah, for sure. Uh, yeah, no, I
But
I was an OC
LAX
boy for a little bit. I got you on
LAX
that.
coming back from China or from Hong Kong is great, because they have showers. Like
Hmm.
they you can fully get, a shower, and it's private and all that stuff. So LAX, I gotta give them props for that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'd rather fly into John Wayne any day.
yeah,
It's just a fun, kind of reminds me of an old airport. Like
yeah.
people could
So
just meet
with
you
work
right
from
up
home,
front.
yeah,
So
with
work
work
from
from
home.
home, flying in for the meeting,
Did they make you?
because
Did they print out business cards for you?
business cards.
Yeah. Did they print out business cards for you?
No, at Yahoo, no. I was a contractor.
Okay.
I don't even know if they had business cards at Yahoo.
Yeah. Well,
Did they?
yeah, they did. They
This
did.
was 2004. I did a 1-year contract, 2004 to 2005. And then I did Cisco from 05 to 06. I think
Oh,
something like that.
nice.
Yeah.
Who did I know that it was Aaron, Erin. Can't think of his last name, but he's in San Francisco now. I'll have to look him up. But you might have crisscrossed him
Oh,
with him.
speaking of Chris, so the original Yahoo team, so good old buddy Chris now is the partner. Well, he started IQ Talent Partners, if you've
Yep.
heard of them, out of
Yep.
Nashville.
That's
So
fantastic.
yeah, him and I drank a lot of wine in Napa when I had to fly in for those stupid dog and pony shows.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's a cool play too, actually. It's a really, really interesting play.
So that's an
Who
option for people to do if you live in Wichita, but they say, hey, you can come to the all hands in Denver. Okay,
go get some edibles. Done. Like,
45-minute flight or whatever it is. I don't know.
yeah, it's not bad. From Wichita, again, you'd have to get an Uber to the airport, but other than that,
Sure. You
Who
know,
in,
so that's fine.
who inspires you today? And I'm not asking you to name names or any of that type of stuff, but like what inspires you, I
I'll
guess.
name names. That's totally fine. I've been dropping dangerous names on this podcast. I wanted your debut long form to
Yeah.
be spicy. So we're spicy.
Should have my Tabasco shirt on. I feel bad.
I already drink all my coffee and my water, so like I'm jazzed up. Uh, you know, I think the people that inspire me now are the founders that are out there like trying to crush it, like Ezra at High Rise, or um, you know, some of my other friends.
Yeah.
You know, Doug Berg still inspires me, even though he's mostly playing golf in Cabo, but he's
100%.
he's still tinkering. He still
Oh,
gives a shit.
he, if it, Doug Berg, for those that don't know him, don't bet against Doug Berg.
You'll lose.
You'll lose. It's been proven too many times.
Yep.
Just don't bet against the guy. It doesn't matter how crazy the idea. When you first hear it, he'll come to you with some crazy idea and go job swim or zap or whatever that. And he'll come to you with an idea and you'll be like, yeah, that's terrible. That's horrible.
And then 3 years later, you'll get an email from Indeed that says Zap Info is now Indeed recruiter extension.
That's right.
And a bunch of redheads and stuff got paid.
So, and he did a fantastic job, kind of like some of the other founders that we know, of being just a fanboy of the industry, of other people, of making it easier. And I remember him doing demos and stuff like that in front of audiences and just going, oh, that's cool. Hold on. Let me think about that. And here's how you could, zap that. And here's how we, like,
Yeah,
it was,
totally.
it was fun.
Yeah.
And I love
remember
entrepreneurs.
SourceCon in Atlanta, the last in-person SourceCon, I guess it was 2019. It'd be the fall show.
Right.
Because we did the Seattle show as well. I can't remember exactly, but I flew to Atlanta just for the party.
Right.
The Zap Info party. And it's like me and Eric were like demoing at the bar kind of thing. But like,
Yep.
Yeah, and Leela from afar.
Yep.
Frankly, you want to get really into it, like Tyler from Uber.
Yep.
I'm gonna say it, like Adam from WeWork, like all the homies, I've always admired these people from afar, and through the different opportunities I've had with different VCs, I won't name drop, I've been able to work with people like this, and that has inspired me to keep going. Because imagine a world where imagine a world where you have billionaires and trillionaires using their people to put pressure on you to fill a job, because that's going to be the next Instagram.
Right.
Your day-to-day on that is pretty crazy. I mean, some of the instrumentation, like having a job description, having to use lever and bullshit like that.
Yeah, don't have any of that.
You might not have any of that because if they had it, you could tell them get rid of it.
That's
if they
right.
don't have it, you say don't spend the next year trying to make that, because we've got bigger fish to fry.
That's right.
Which is finding a product designer, because I saw the MVP and it needs a designer. And it's like, well, how do we do that? And then I'm like, I'm 100% inspired to your original question, because like now it's like this person that I admire doesn't know how to do this, and I get to share.
Right.
And because I have this opportunity to share and pair, I'm inspired that they got to where they're at, not knowing these simple things. And that just gives me hope for like humanity in general.
And the way that you use pair, at least the way I think you use pair, I should say, is a way of thinking about collaboration.
True.
Right.
It's a structured way, though.
Right. Of course.
You even said it like, oh, you have to take this and put it into this Google thing so that we can collaborate.
Right.
Well, couldn't we do that with a pencil and paper or a whiteboard? Yes, but there's a certain reason you chose the Google Doc, right?
That's right.
Yeah. It's more than collaboration, it's the evolution.
Yes. And you can see other people as they're typing, like, okay, all right. And you can riff off of that. So one of the things that I think that I want to run past you was, I think you're also in love, or you like people or inspired by people that change, that aren't static. You know what I mean?
They
like,
reinvent themselves.
Yes. Madonna, Lady Gaga, pick your favorite.
Cher.
Yeah. but they keep reinventing themselves. Every couple of years, they find a new fascination, a new thing. And I kind of get bored
Mhm.
real easily, but I get
Mhm.
bored with people that stay the same. Like if I haven't checked
Yeah,
in with you in 5 years and I can still tell you what you do, it's like,
right.
eh,
Well, that's why I want to be an angel, because like paired sourcing is going to be 7 years old in July. Um, and so if anybody is watching this or listening to this and they want to come join the small little boutique over here, I'm looking for, you know, my next co-founder essentially, but a predecessor and maybe even eventually. I don't think I'll ever get bored sourcing,
right,
so I can't relate there.
right.
Uh, but reinventing how we do sourcing, switching from branding to back to sourcing essentially,
Mhm.
evolving from agency to corporate large brand name enterprise to startup world or whatever my journey's been. To me, it seems like it's going painfully slow. But when you start thinking about your input output, it's like, when was the last time? Sure, I've seen William. We've been involved with stuff. We've spoke, but when was the last time we sat down and had a one-on-one for over an hour?
Right.
You know, a lot has probably changed, and you might have had an internal narrative of like, I know Jer, this is what Jer's doing,
That's right.
and that could be like 10% of my time, and the other 90% of my time I'm building a better ATS that nobody knows about, or whatever the
Oh,
case may be.
100%, because
Yeah.
social is mostly
Yes.
positive. All you're seeing is the narratives of what's positive in people's lives, birthdays and celebrations and this, that, and the other. You don't see the, oh yeah, he went through clinical depression and
Right.
was in a car accident, and
Right. Totally.
lungs collapsed.
And
You don't see
sometimes
that stuff.
you intentionally don't see it. Mr. Beast was on JRE recently, and Mr. Beast said, Joe had asked him a question like, um, just random stuff. Like we've gotten into some random. It was like, hey, what do like The Simpsons or like South Park? It was a South Park reference,
Nice.
and Mr. Beast is like, bro, I've never seen South Park. And then Joe's like, how have you not seen South Park? Like, you're in
How are you
the
breathing
media. You're in
air?
media. You're Mr. Beast. You're the biggest YouTuber on the planet. You're making
Yeah,
millions of dollars while we're talking.
right.
And he said, is it on YouTube? And he's like, no. He's like, yeah, I just don't know if it's not on YouTube. He's just been watching YouTube and making YouTube and doing YouTube all day, every day for like 10, 15 years.
Yep.
He's
That's
got 100 people that work for him,
yeah,
which is fine in different ways. But like the same thing, if you go check in and just thinking about who could be your next person, you probably already got some ideas. But like if you go check in with them and you haven't talked to them for 5 years and they are an entrepreneur or a recruiter or a sourcer or a corporate leader in the HRTA space, or they're building technology to help all of us, if they don't strike you as a little bit different, evolved like a Pokemon, still the same Jeremy, but a little bit different in certain ways and better in other ways, and maybe has new weaknesses that he didn't have before or
right.
whatever. Like if they're not living.
No,
You're
they're
talking
not.
to a deep fake hologram. You need to get off the phone.
Well, and I love entrepreneurs, and I want to get your take on this. I love entrepreneurs because it's at one point it's a fine line between arrogance and confidence, but the idea that they would at one point think there's got to be a better way. I
Yeah.
mean, this is Hewlett Packard, Steve Jobs, any entrepreneur, Edison, pick any of them, it doesn't really matter. But they literally look at the whatever's there and go, yeah, there's got to be a better way to do that.
Yeah.
And and
That's what we
and
did with sourcing.
and they go and do some bit, and yeah, it
Mhm.
might not work, but they basically say, I don't like what's here, I'm going to go and do something else that changes that
Yeah,
for the better. I like the quirkiness, and again, most entrepreneurs that I deal with, they're somewhere on the spectrum,
for sure.
and I love that because I love the quirkiness of the questions that come at me.
Mhm.
The rando of like at one moment, the non sequitur of like, William, we're really trying to figure out pricing. Well,
Yeah.
okay, here's how you figure out pricing. And then, oh, by the way, I gotta hire. It's like, holy
Yeah. That's
it's like with most of these entrepreneurs, what people don't know, and now will, as we talk about it, is it's like riding a mechanical bull.
mhm.
In some ways, you're just like, I'm just trying to hold on as
I
best
mean,
I can.
yeah. I mean, some of the names we've dropped and some of the friends we have in common, um, can relate. I mean, I think that's why, let's go back to in-person conferences for our industry. I think that's why it's super important that at the end of this month, there's conflicting options,
Right.
right? I mean, I don't know if Greenhouse would invite me. I'm a user, maybe whatever, but like I would go to either of those things. I'd go to the MGM in Vegas and go to dinner with Shannon at Higher Easy and my friends and stuff as easily as I would get on a plane to go, I forget where you said where yours is,
It's New York.
in New York, and go do the Greenhouse thing. Like the fact that there's two in-person
Fantastic.
conferences is so fantastic right now, because a lot of people have Asperger's, ADHD, but they also have, a $10 million budget and they need to solve some problems for some important people.
That's right. I was at let's see, Sherm Talent a couple weeks ago in Denver, and bought at least $3,000 worth of edibles. Just kidding. Just kidding.
You have to finish them before you get back on the plane. So good luck.
And yes, so but what was wonderful about it is I went into the sessions packed, standing room only.
Yeah.
I went into the expo packed, lines like I remember going to
We're back, baby.
Unleash years ago, and the Europeans are so polite. They would actually stand in line, like for Conexa. They'd literally stand in line, like 10 people would be deep, and they'd be having their espresso, and I'm like, man, this is not an American event.
Right.
Americans are up there smashing and grabbing the pencils and the pens and the koozies and the shit like that. Yeah. Europeans are just standing in line. It was great. But I love in-person events for, if not the content, okay, so if some of that doesn't work out as best we can, I love the in-person events for everything that happens outside of the content.
Yeah, totally. Like the rest of it.
Yeah.
All right, let's just do a quick time check because my phone keeps going off.
You're good. We got 12 minutes. All right,
perfect.
I'm gonna give you a magic wand. It's gonna look like a big pen, but it's a magic wand.
We can just edit that in later.
So you have a magic wand. Fix sourcing training. How do we fix sourcing training?
If I go long, I mean, we can cut it and start it. I just have lunch after this. So I'm good.
No, you're good. You're good.
Say your question again.
How do you fix sourcing? How would you fix sourcing training? And then I'll give
I
you
would teach them how to do a paired sourcing sprint.
Okay.
I would release my IP to the market.
Okay. Now, the three questions that come to mind. One is advice you'd give your younger self in sourcing specifically. Like, what would you go back and tell Jer 2002?
I started sourcing in 2003.
Okay, all right, 3.
I was an agency recruiter in 2002.
Okay, well, you wouldn't talk to that person anyhow. That's all right, good.
That asshole was making placements at Amazon though, so I probably would tell him go buy some shares. Like Uber.
Yeah. Here's a small list. Make these investments.
ANZN GOBRK.A. So that's you don't even know what that needs to be, Jer, but buy Berkshire.
Just buy that. Just go ahead and buy that. Yeah, it's $87,000 a share. Doesn't matter. Just buy that.
Yeah, it's $500,000 a share now, and I felt like I did some of that through real estate, in essence. But anyways, I would tell Jer, Sorcerer Jer, early 2K, to Rob McIntosh is, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Rob and I had offices down the hall from each other at Microsoft.
Oh wow.
I was the only Kelly girl. That's what they called him back then. Don't
Yes, I know. No, I know.
I was the only Kelly girl
before they went to
private
Kelly
office.
Services.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Kelly Services, the account manager for Kelly Services had an office at Kelly in Redmond, and then also had an office at Microsoft. They never came into the office at Microsoft. I don't remember how they worked it out, but I had a private office. I felt like hot.
Yes.
Big Stevens, big D Stevens. So I would roll by Rob's. The coffee was this way, but I would go this other way. So I'd go by Rob's, and then I loop around and get coffee.
A form of exercise and making sure that he knows that you're there. Yes. Yeah. Good.
And I would go by in like flip-flops and like a tank top. And I had really long hair then, you can imagine, because I still have lots of hair. But I was a hippie, right? I had cut off corduroys on that probably hadn't been washed in a couple of weeks. I was like straight up hippie, and I would walk by his office like 3 times a day, every day, 5 days a week, until he took notice. And that was like my whole thing. But I would tell my younger self, do that, and then once he gets noticed, pair with him instead of compete with him.
Right.
And I made more hires than his top performer, which was Shally, by the way. I
Right.
made more hires than Tito, who was his boss at Google. So I would compete and I would make hires. But at the end of the day, if everyone hates you and you're making hires, that's not a W, bro.
That's right.
So I would
That's
have
right.
shared and collabed and paired more and competed way less.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great advice. That's great advice today. That's fantastic advice. You're not, without getting too far into the IP, what do you believe the fundamentals of sourcing are?
Ego and mysticism.
Okay.
So ego, because there's only a few people out there.
Yep.
Greg Hawkes is one. I love Greg.
Yep.
Eric Jakewith is another one. Jake,
Yep.
he's a sales guy now, but
Yep.
there's not very many sourcers. Batman did it, and James Temple, shout out to my old partner. Like these guys did it. They have successful companies doing sourcing sprints, pairing, all that
Yep.
stuff, the same thing, same
Right.
playbook. The reason we were all able to kind of do some of this is because we checked our freaking ego and we
Right.
said, I'm going to let you watch me source.
Yeah.
This is the grossest, nastiest screen share. This is going to be me up in spreadsheets and emails and tools, and I'm going to sound like crazy Dean DaCosta by the end of this. But by the way, I have a job description from a hiring manager, so it's a real rec and we're getting paid.
That's right.
But like, we're going to just check our ego and we're going to just like source together. And if Rob McIntosh and I would have just sourced together, I would have been a millionaire way sooner. But you know, whatever.
That's fantastic. Mysticism.
Mysticism is every time, here's my top 5. Every time a sourcer says Boolean, that's mysticism. Every time Dean says tool, that's mysticism. Every time Greenhouse says we're going to have a summit, every time I say agile, every time Shally needs a whiteboard to explain how to do something, like that's mysticism. And it's not that. There's a time and place for that stuff.
Yes. Yes.
But mostly we use it in a public venue when we need to be doing it in a private venue.
Right. Right.
Why? Because we're trying to prove our worth.
Right.
Well, the
which
original
is back
job,
to ego.
Which is back to ego. And these things are a perfect pair.
Yep. It is the yin and yang in some ways.
Yeah. So I do well.
Fit each other.
I make more hires. People love me better, etc. Like I have more worth as a sourcer and as an entrepreneur when I check my ego and I demystify a process, or I take the extra effort through empathy to explain to someone instead of, oh, I use Boolean on LinkedIn Recruiter. Right. Okay. Well, that HR lady, sorry, don't cancel me, but freaking Janet's cousin, Karen, who's the head of HR.
She can do that.
Yeah. All she heard was, I don't know what that is. And
Voodoo.
We pay a lot for LinkedIn and you're not making hires on LinkedIn. So whatever the dicking around you're doing is not good. I'm not giving you budget from mine. And you can go be a sourcer until I can figure out how to get rid of you.
Yes. Yes. You're already on a call, the death clock at this point.
Well, if a sourcer goes up to a VP of HR at one of these big companies that we're talking about and says, I do Boolean on LinkedIn Recruiter to get some ROI pipeline.
You've already lost them.
Guess what? You just got put on a freaking personal improvement plan. You got pipped. You got a pip.
Yeah. I don't know who that person is, but make sure that by the time I get back from Hawaii, they're no longer here. Okay. Sounds good. Great.
Yeah. Who was that redhead? Because whatever he just said to me was offensive.
Well, I think Boolean's a curse word. Actually, I said that the other day to somebody and they laughed. I said, I think commute is a curse word now. Like I think, but what changed in you? Because something changed. There was either a life moment or an epiphany.
Which stage? We've had lots of stages.
Well, at one point, you again, it could have been when you started Paired, but you had an epiphany of checking your ego. Yeah. Because you weren't none of us were. So some of it could be just pure age. You just said at this age, I just said, yeah, I'm gonna put those things away and I'm gonna do this other thing.
I mean, you could bootstrap a successful startup you're either still around 7 years later or you're not. It's that
Right.
binary. And so if you can, as a small business in America, like no cap, if you can, as a small business in America, succeed, you define success. When I say the word succeed, you can, everybody listening, you just boom, whatever
Yeah.
that is. I have that. And I'm okay with saying that because I'm not an asshole anymore.
Right.
I'm not a competitor anymore. I'm just an age grouper.
The anymore, there was a moment.
Yeah.
What was that moment? If you can tell
Um,
us.
I mean, it's a span of the
Okay.
last,
Okay.
7 years. But I guess
That's fine.
the day I decided I'm not getting a real job anymore was sometime in 2015.
You're virtually unemployable.
Yeah, so probably 2 or 3 months into so we started July 5th, 2015, we started paired sourcing. So my wife had given me that 90-day thing again.
Yeah.
So by July, August,
You didn't have to sleep on
September,
your brother's floor though. This is a little bit different.
I sleep on my own floor because I was a work from home virtual company. Where's my air quotes? Work from home virtual company.
Did change my underwear for a week, but yeah, whatever.
I had MeUndies actually. I did have MeUndies subscription. So so July 2015, we start paired sourcing. She said, if you don't have a job by SourceCon, which I think was in October, I want you to come home with a job. And again, that's not being egotistical. That's just like, I can go to SourceCon and come home with a new job.
Right. Of
So
course.
you either build this custom home and flip it, or you're going to be in the Home Depot parking lot chair. And I knew the mysticism thing because I knew I was going to disrupt and I was going to like open source our framework and teach people sourcing sprint and work myself out of a job and give birth to other startups. So I knew I was going to do that in small circles. What I didn't know in the fall of 2015 is that bootstrapping a successful startup, that other people are going to go, how'd that happen? You just did that overnight? They're not going to see the blood, sweat, and tears that went in.
No.
So sometime at the end of 2015, I was like, okay, I don't have to get a real job, but this is going to be very, very hard.
Last question. What are you looking forward to? Let's just say near term. I don't do flying car stuff, but just near term and the rest of the year, maybe even into a little bit of 2023. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, just eliminate. So I would say the things that we can change as hiring teams right now are things like finally putting the resume and job description keyword matching algorithm conversation to bed and just be like, hey, we did that for like 10 years.
It was cute.
It was cute. But there's things that are threatening that way of life, including, Elon and Bitcoin and all that, which we can get into later at some point, but like, or some other time. But I would say like the things that we know are dead in our modern practices with modern tooling on the cutting edge with the right people and budget and plan, like in that world, maybe that's only like 2%ers or the top 10% of companies and TA folks out there. But in that world, get rid of all that other stuff. If your company still has to do it, let the company do it, but that's not you. That's not who we are. So if you really want to say future of talent, you really want to like put a pin in this whole like great resignation thing, you have to get rid of, the manual screwdrivers and start finally using, the drill screwdriver that we got you and put your IKEA furniture together. Like, why do people still put IKEA furniture together with a little L screw thing when they can just go bzz, 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 and just be done? Yeah. So stop using job descriptions, stop posting, stop purchasing ATSs, stop all the things that are not working, and use that white space to try a new way of sourcing, or try a new way of branding, or try a new way of recruiting, or try a new way. You might have to try 3, 4, 5 before you see what sticks for you guys. But the only way you're going to have white space for that is if you told, okay, so let's say you're a recruiting manager listening to this, you're Lanny Love, circa 2009 at Starbucks. You have Taleo, and you have Jer working for you. And Jer's embarrassed that he's on Twitter. Okay. So this is what's happening right there. You know what? What would happen if you just said, guess what, Jerry, you don't have to use Taleo anymore. Phil has to use it twice as much now. Sorry, Phil. Phil knows who he is. He's going to be watching this. Guess what, Phil, you're the ATS guy, but Jared doesn't want to do that no more. What could happen? You know, like, why are you making your sourcers do phone interviews?
Yep.
Once you pick up the phone, you're either the hiring manager or you're the recruiter or the HR person, but you're not doing research and outreach. You're having a meeting, you're having a phone call, you're having a virtual coffee, you're doing a recruiter function. So if your sourcers, so you ask, like, what can we just like stop right now? Like if your sourcers are doing source, screen and submit is a recruiter's job that they're supposed to be doing for HR and for the hiring manager. If you have sourcers on your team that you call sourcers that are supposed to be sourcing, tell them, send a mass email right now. Pause this, send a mass email, say, sourcers are no longer required to get on the telephone. We have turned off ATS access.
Happiness just went like this.
We have turned off ATS access for sourcers. Doing phone screens is a recruiter and people's job. Working a requisition in a piece of software, that's the recruiter's job, hiring manager. Sourcer, no more phone. Oh, right. Shoot. Well, I got 3 hours back today.
Yeah.
Great.
Turns
out.
Go
do some sourcing.
Go do that. You know what I love about this is it's and the way you've approached it is, what if you weren't already doing it this way? Tear it all down, build it back up, and don't build it back up the way that you had it.
But we're humans. We're still going to build it in the tornado alley.
Yeah.
You know, we're still going to be like living next to the shore where it always floods. We'll just buy insurance. So part of, you can't fix stupidity. Some people are into S&M. I get that, but at the end of the day, if you want to be on in a modern talent function for a company that wants to compete at the highest level, delete job description, delete ATS, don't make your sourcers get on the phone, and then be open to new ideas like pairing, like whatever flavor of the week new sourcing platform.
Yep.
I've been on the same sourcing platform for almost 3 years now, which is great.
Well, that means it works.
And it's evolving. Yeah.
Brother, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I don't know if it's been wonderful for you, but it has absolutely been wonderful for me. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been very cathartic. I don't know if that's right. Cathartic.
Cathartic. It's both. Let's, potato, whatever. We got there, and we got to talk about a bunch of great things. So thank you so much for inspiring me to do this. And I'm so glad that you were the first guest.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And on that note, can I leave you with a parting gift?
Yes.
Awesome. I figured you weren't ready.
Stock tip. Just kidding.
I sold my Tesla. If I would have sold it when I wanted to, I would have made more. But yeah, I got out on Tesla. My parting gift is this. Your audience can just Google me. I'm referenceable. Look up paired sourcing. Hit me up, Jarrett@pairedsourcing.com. JER@pairedsourcing.com. Just email me. I will send you my process deck. So my gift to you is any of your listeners or any of your audience can just say, heard you on Tincup, just ping me wherever on social, whatever. Hey, I want your process deck. You can just have it. You take my name off it, put your name on it. You'll be a hero at your job.
Well, that's worth the wait right there. Thank you so much, brother. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I appreciate your time.
All right, we'll see you later. Bye.
All right, bye.